This podcast is powered by PKF. PKF, your trusted advisor in the Hunter for over 45 years. Down to Business acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters this podcast is recorded on.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Down to Business. I'm your host, Andrew Beattie, and today joining me is the Managing Director of a company called Cultelec, which is a national electrical and automation distribution business in Australia. But also it has manufacturing capabilities, got a lot of moving parts. But aside from that, he's a father. He's a very proud grandfather of two bundles of joy. And to be fair, I've played with him a bit and he's not a bad golfer. So welcome, Grant Turner.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mate, why don't you give us a bit of a background on not just Cultelec, because that's where you are now, but I guess the background of Grant's journey that led to, coming to a business and ultimately managing director status.
Yeah, well, I've always been in the electrical industry, and from leaving high school, started with an electrical contracting business, and spent some time in the switchboard industry, which then led me to doing some diploma work, and then got me into some design work. And then made my way into a sales organisation, one of Australia's largest sales organisations, and moved to a state management position in Sydney 30-odd years ago.
Don't look that old, mate.
Yeah, no. And that was working in Sydney. I had two small children, and back in Newcastle, so the move to Newcastle was imminent.
So, and you say you started in electrical. I mean, is that a matter of, because you're originally from the Hunter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is
that
Newcastle.
a matter of, that was the job you went into or you fell into, or?
No, I wanted to be a trainee golf professional, actually, and I secured a position at Waratah Golf Club. Went home excited, told my dad that I'd picked up this position, and he was aware that I'd also applied for some electrical positions, and he was aware that I'd secured a couple of apprenticeships, and he decided that being a golf pro wasn't for me.
Probably not a bad move.
Great move, yeah.
I mean, the percentages are
Didn't like him at the time, but I've thanked him every day since.
And trust me, he's a good golfer, so for him to say that, that's, I think that's probably burst the bubble, but you probably got a lot to thank him for.
Oh, every day. Yeah, I see young golfers and the grind and how difficult it is for them, and I'm just so thankful that he made that choice for me.
So I guess that's the start of maybe not the business journey per se, but it's the start of making sure you've got good counsel around you too, whether you knew it or not.
Correct. Didn't know it at the time, and but certainly know it now. Yeah.
So you end up back in, as you said, you end up back in Newcastle, and what was the position you were at when you came back?
Well, I was in Sydney as a state manager with a company much larger than Cultelec is, and I think they're a $400 or $500 million business now, and I got the call from Cole Barber, who was a partner in Cultelec, and Cultelec, by the way, was the name Cultelec is nothing more sexy than Colin and Terry Electrical. That's what it is, and a lot of people ask the question, and that's where it is. So Cole Barber gave me a call, and he let me know that Terry, the business was 3 years old at the time I got the call, and there was five or six person operation, and Colin phoned me and said that Terry was retiring, should I say, and would I be interested? I'd met Cole on a couple of rugby trips to Sydney, just social events in Sydney, and we because we were both in the same industry, we'd bounce off each other, and I thought that was a nice way to get out of Sydney, and girls were only young at the time, so I was missing them and seeing them sparingly on weekends. So the motivation was there. Plus, my youngest daughter had some learning difficulties, and we realised early on that she may find it difficult to find employment throughout her life. So it was all about, well, I've got to create something that I can support her through her life.
And it's one of those real sliding door moments, isn't it? Because you imagine how many people get opportunities to present to them, and I'm interested to keep going down this path, but say no because, well, no idea how I do it, or fear of the unknown, or how am I going to put food on the table, etc. I imagine all that went through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not knowing how to do it, absolutely. I'd always worked for somebody, and a P&L was just 2 letters put together. That's what it was to me, and I remember it was every cent of equity that we had for me to buy into this business, and it was a business that had lost. We're going back to 1999. It was a business that had lost, I think, 50 grand the year before. So it was a horrible leap of faith. I mean, I look back at it now, and I don't know why I did it. I mean, it was obviously those motivating factors. But if somebody came to me and asked my advice on something like that, if it would present itself, I'd tell them not to do it.
Absolutely agree. If you're looking purely at a number sense, but let's explore it a bit more. I mean, apart from the equity side, how did it go from opportunity to actual realisation? I mean, what were some of the conversations? What were some of the things you saw that you thought, well, hang on, I can make a crack at this?
Yeah, that's very clear. So the companies that Coltelec were representing, and they were just a Newcastle-based business at that time. The companies they were representing and the products they were representing were the products that would continually come up as our Achilles heels at my previous company, and they were always the one that causing us most trouble in the marketplace. Because they were better, they were they were more technically advanced, and so when I looked at them, I felt no reason that this business shouldn't be successful. And I used fortunately, I had a really strong network of Newcastle-based customers, and they jumped on board. When they knew I went out on business, they thanks to those relationships that I developed over a number of years, they supported me. Yeah, sometimes probably to their detriment in some ways, but that was great that they did.
And we'll talk about relationships in a minute, but I guess that's the start of that. But so and we're talking 99. When you say that, it doesn't feel that long ago, but then you count the years and it probably is. But interest rates are a lot higher then than where they got to. I mean, as we stand here now, they're starting to come back, but interest rates were higher.
Mm-hmm.
Banks weren't probably as freely giving out money. So you've put it all on the line with, as you said, equity. I guess what's some of the learnings that you had in that process that you could look back at now?
Yeah, well, cash is king was a very good lesson for us. I mean, we obviously used everything we had just to buy into the business. I remember there was a point where there was a stamp duty bill come in, invoice come in some months after we'd acquired the company, and we actually had to delve into the girls' bank accounts to pay that stamp duty account. So, when cash was tight, because the business did start to grow from those relationships that I spoke of before. We were, the order intake was starting to grow but obviously that costs money. You've got to have money for that, and we just didn't. And so we had to really go cap in hand to our suppliers and ask for extended terms so it wasn't. I've got to say, business probably wasn't enjoyable. It was really early morning starts, and I was working out which customers were happy to see me, before the workday started, what was best time for them, and then I had other customers who didn't want me to bother them through the day, but they were more happy to see me after hours. So I had this long spell of a day, 14-hour days of just working out who were the best customers to see at what times, and it grew, business grew, and then we just needed cash, and we didn't have it, and fortunately the suppliers supported us.
So you would have been pretty skinny then.
I was very skinny.
But I think, that's a good point, because a lot of people, I see it all the time where they think they can hide from the suppliers or the banks or whatever it may be. And in my experience, and it is a generalisation, but having those conversations up front, you can generally negotiate and get some leniency there to actually help the cause.
Yeah, the problem we had with our suppliers is we were not. I guess we didn't have a record, or Coltelec didn't have a record of being a strong performer. So they went out on a limb to offer us the extended terms. So I had to sell them a story, a story of success, I guess, that I wasn't even confident of achieving. But fortunately, yeah. And those relationships and those suppliers are still with us today. And it's been a great 20 odd years.
And compared to, like, I know the level of planning that you do now, but compared to way back when, were there strategic plans? Was there regular reporting?
No. The only plan was to get up early, see as many customers as you possibly could, and then get to bed to get ready to go the next day. That was the only plan there was.
So maybe experience and hindsight's a wonderful thing. And I think, one of those tips for business owners or viewers going into business or starting out in business is to make sure you can apply, relevant plans and a bit of financial nous or reporting to things to know where you're at.
Yeah. I certainly learnt business the tough way. Yeah.
Well, no one teaches you, do they?
No, there's no book. I'm sure. Well, there are probably books, but I wasn't a reader. So I learnt from everyday experiences. Yep.
So fast forward, okay. Well, not fast forward. We'll come to some of the journey in a minute. But Cultelec, a lot of people looking at would say it's a product business. Now, for those that don't understand the difference, you're a distribution business. So realistically, you're doing mostly B2B. And
yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of exclusive products. So not a lot of ranges in some. So that straight away, there's customers that you can't deal with because you don't stock the exclusive product.
Yeah.
So I guess if it's a product business, that's what people look at from the outside, Why has Cultelec's success grown so much and even taken business away from, competitors that stock arguably a very similar and probably just as capable product? I mean, you mentioned solutions-based to me before.
Yes, yeah, we're that, and that's the answer. We're the products that we import are all recognised as world-class quality. And the people we employ are very competent, generally engineering or trades qualified people who can sell the solution. When a client or a customer talks to them about an issue they might have or a project they have, our guys they've lived it and they can talk with confidence around a solution. And sometimes the product then doesn't really matter. It's about the customer being confident that the person they're talking to is fully aware of what they're trying to achieve and then have the confidence that they're going to provide them the product that will do the job.
Because one thing probably I missed before was also when we say it's a product, but you've also got the service side of it as well.
Yeah, we offer service, and that's at this point in time is a back to base service. We have a manufacturing and testing facility in Wollongong now, and so we that's the other thing, we can adapt. If there isn't a product, an off-the-shelf product available, we're in a position where we can now manufacture something that'll do a job.
So I guess the key message there for people is, as much as product makes up the large amount of sales and realistically be lost without it, it's I guess the end solution, if you like, but a lot of the sales process is really understanding that customer need, getting to know them and how you can help.
That's right. Yeah, and generally, once you help a customer, I find they just stick with you. We don't lose too many customers. Once we've got them, we've got them. Yeah.
But a big part of that, it's a good segue, because a big part of that would be relationships. And on this these sessions we speak with many business owners, and relationship usually comes up in every episode, I guess. But talk to me about the different relationship, because you've got the customers, obviously, but a big part of Cultelec's success would be with the suppliers too.
Without question, and with all due respect to our customers and even our team, our staff, suppliers, our vision, our company vision is to be recognised by our suppliers as their premier distributor. And that's not just in Australia, that's globally. And everything we do, I make that comment because we have 3,000 customers, active customers year on year, and we now have a staff of 70 to 80. I can afford, or Cultelec can afford to lose a few customers along the way. We can probably, and we do, lose staff along the way. They leave for better opportunities or any other reason. But what I can't afford to do is to lose those suppliers. So, and it's about shifting that, the balance of importance, I suppose, from us being concerned that the supplier will look for another partner, distribution partner, to having the supplier concerned that we might be looking somewhere else. So that's the position we try to get ourselves into, to be more important to the supplier than they might be to us.
Well, I guess that's also, as you said, your solution focus for the customer.
Yeah.
It's also been solution focused for the supplier. Like, what are they trying to achieve? What growth have they got? And can Cultulec deliver on that?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And they all have, the difficulty in our business is that we have 5 or 6 tier 1 suppliers from either Europe or Asia or wherever they might be, but they all have a different go-to-market strategy. So that the challenge for us is to try and, we can't just employ a group of people for each product we support. We have to try and find a nice balance that they're all happy with. And you know, we plagiarise. I'm probably the world's greatest at plagiarising ideas, and I'll copy anybody if I feel they're doing it better than we are. Yeah.
And that's a great point. I say this to our team a lot, like especially with the you know, these days we're on a blog now, but these kind of things, or people putting articles or social media and all that sort of stuff. It's how many people try and reinvent the wheel that much, but you know, in this little thing called the World Wide Web, you know, like there is so much information.
Yeah.
There are so many good ideas out there. It's how can you adapt? How can you borrow? How can you apply? I think that's a key thing. Rinse and repeat rather than invent all the time.
Yeah, we have a lot of conferences. Obviously, these companies we represent, they'll have a conference, and I spend any free moment I get talking to the other partners in the room from wherever they are in the world, just asking them what do they do. And I've already identified. I ask, who are the better distributors in the room, and they'll point them out. So I'll make it my business to go and sit with them and say, what are you doing and how are you doing it? And they don't feel that's a challenge because they're in a different country or so. I'm not ashamed to copy what they're doing.
No, I think it's a great one. I think a lot of people let those things called egos get in the way, or pride, or we can do it better. When realistically, it's about how can we. And I think that's the old Toyota story. How can we constantly improve those 1%ers?
Yeah, for sure.
So things were going well. For those the viewers, 2015 saw an opportunity to exit. Had an approach. What was that like?
I don't know if I was ever comfortable during that whole process. There was a lot right about it, but there was always something niggling at me that maybe this isn't right. And as much as we went all the way through the process, and 2015, so 8 years ago. Yeah, so I was never keen to retire or move out, and I don't know what I'd do if I retired. Golf's good one day a week, but I've got 6 others I'd have to fill in for. But
maybe 2 or 3, mate.
Well, maybe 2 or 3, but there was a lot I was not comfortable about, and I'm still at that point today. I mean, I don't know if I really want to sell the business. I just enjoy it too much. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the people that work for us. I enjoy our suppliers, the relationships we have. I just enjoy getting out of bed every day, going to work. Yeah.
But as it turns out, you went right through the process, as you said, and like not just the 11th hour, probably the 11th hour and 59 minutes, she fell over.
Yeah, we'd actually, the representative from the French company that were interested in this, he was there with his, he had a bucket with the champagne in there. We were ready to pour it, and he got a phone call from the head office saying that all acquisitions are off, and globally, and that whatever you're working on has to stop. And we were sitting there ready to have lunch and pop the champagne, and that's pretty much how it went. Yeah, and you asked me how it felt. I don't know. I was probably as much relieved as I was disappointed. It wasn't. It wasn't a crushing moment. It was almost like, well, this was meant to happen.
But I think and I recall it at the time. It was a very different business to what it is now. And like and we can build that up in a minute. But opportunity knocks. And you go for it. So it's a costly exercise to go through anything like that. And for many people, let alone business owners, would to be fair, probably drop their bundle a bit there and do what you got to do. But I think from the ashes, if you want to call it, comes opportunity, and that's what's being created.
Yeah, we taking a step back, but from buying the business in late '99 to 2015, when this opportunity arose, we branched out, and I think we had an office in 4 of the 7 states or something.
Yeah, I think you had five companies there.
Yeah, and they were separate companies. Our first branch out was 2006 in Wollongong, and I didn't want to. It was my first opportunity to move out of Newcastle to set up another business, and I made the decision to not call it Cultulec, because should it fail, I didn't want that to taint what was happening in Newcastle. So I found a really good friend and partner down there to come in with me, and he was from Wollongong, so he sort of managed the business down there, and we went a 50-50 arrangement. And then a fellow from the previous, we then went to Adelaide, under exactly the same arrangement, again with a different name, and so we ended up with these 5 or 6 different businesses, all with different names, all doing the same thing. And it was a lady that came in for an interview, and she looked at she mentioned through the interview, she said, so I looked at your website and I'm a little confused as to who Cultulec are, or who does it belong to. And I thought, gee, if somebody like you is confused, then a lot of our customers or suppliers would be confused as well. So that's at that point, when the acquisition thing fell over, it was time to amalgamate and turn it into one business.
And I think that's a key thing for anyone, sort of listening or watching, and you've got to consider what is your go-to market. I mean, there were plenty of reasons, as you pointed out, mainly about risk as to why you did it that way. But effectively, it was sort of, as much as there was some cross-ownership there, effectively it was like a buying group, from the point of view of getting the benefits of, volume, but really separate companies, and with that you've got to be careful. There's a lot of duplication in overheads and functions and that sort of thing.
Oh, massive! Yeah, it was. And you brought that to our attention, and there was a lot of upside in amalgamating.
Yeah.
That said, it was the worst part of my working career, but it was.
I think the point then, how do you amalgamate? And I think we ain't going into all the detail, but one of the things that often comes up, because you had shareholders that had 50% of a company, and for them to get their head around, I'm only going to have 5% of a, albeit much larger company, that was still, I've gone from 50% to 5%. That's a psyche sort of thing.
It was, and it was a consideration I didn't take to hand, and it worked out being a bit of an issue for some of them. Yeah, they went from being the king of the castle, because they were essentially running the business, and I wasn't there. They were it, to being a small shareholder in a much bigger pie, and had its challenges.
Yeah, and I'd say to that, to anyone who's thinking about this, you've really got to bring it back to your absolute returns rather than your percentages. At the end of the day, 5% of a much larger pie is probably worth more than your 50% or even sometimes 100% of your smaller little vehicle there, because you can have different markets growing at different rates, different performers, etc. So, it does need to be called out, but it's a very different way of looking at things. But
and that's proven to be true. The couple that decided it wasn't for them that departed, but those that have been there for the entire journey, I reckon they'd be more than happy with the decision they made.
They'd want to be. But that fell over. You had the feeling, you did the amalgamation, a lot of lessons learnt. And I mean, I think the key thing there to point out too, that not only did a couple of shareholders decide that wasn't for them, but once you started to lift all the layers or peel back, lift some stones over and turn them over, you realised there was a fair few people taking the mickey, I guess, or not necessarily doing their roles, or were inhibitors to the strategy and the growth.
Yes, but fortunately, that's behind us now, and it took a little while to find that out and work that out, and but we now have. I'm as proud as you could be about the team we have now.
And I think the key thing there also is that it's not easy to have a great business. A lot of people, I think, look at the end result and think, it's just happened. But, we'll get into some of the things you surround yourself with key people and that sort of thing. But reality is you have to make the hard decisions.
Yeah, had to make a number of those along the way, and put a lot of thought into them and make sure you're doing it the right way, and
But paid off. So, we've said you've had good growth since then. Cultulec now has opened up, well, I think in our time together, we've done at least 4 acquisitions, new offices, new people. As you said, we're a team now of about 70 people, with a lot of good growth on the horizon. I guess what are some of the key highlights or key areas that you think has allowed that growth?
I think we've been fortunate, or we've put quite a bit of time into looking at where the future of our industry is going, where we have holes, and we've invested a lot of time in trying to find those supply partners that can help us fill those holes. So we've had a plan and a strategy to try and stay within a vertical and not disappear. We get a lot of opportunities now because of the structure we have and the size we do get a lot of opportunities come to us now. Will you support our product? And we turn a whole lot more away now than we take on. In fact, we made the decision we won't be taking any more on because of our basket we feel is full, and there's an enormous amount of potential in what we have. But yeah, we've been very strict in the products we take on and keeping within a vertical. Yeah,
stick to your knitting.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess then we're speaking a lot about people, and I know a lot of your team. You've got some great people internally, and I know what sort of structure you have external. So talk to me about the importance of having the right people around you, but also the ability to be able to let them, make some decisions and run their race, and also the type of, counsel you keep these days.
Yeah. Right now, it's all about trust. We've got 5 or 6 people on that top line of management, top tier of management, and that covers the logistics and admin and accounting, sales and product management and engineering and manufacturing. So we have a manager in place in each of those, and they do. I trust them complicitly. They're very good people, and it makes my life a whole lot easier just knowing that they're doing everything they can to make the business successful.
And it helps to have that trust, because I know you've got very clear role expectations. What they're responsible for. Forums for them to actually collaborate together, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. They come together every month and as a group, and I enter their team meetings, and I enter those team meetings more as I just listen in. I don't contribute. Well, I shouldn't say I don't, but every now and again I'll
and try and take over.
No, I certainly don't try and take over, and I like what I'm hearing. I like the way they're working together, and as you say, their roles are very clear, and those meetings have been very good.
Yeah, and I think assisting that, you've got a very clear strategic plan, an action plan they all work towards, underpinned by a very robust budget and reporting system too.
Yeah, thanks to you. That was something very new to our business, the strategy planning that we do every year, and having some very clear goals on what we want to achieve over a quarter or a half year or year period. So we have a very good vision of where we want to be, and so far the last 4 or 5 years we've achieved that on each year.
Yeah, and I think that's, and thanks for your comments, but we were involved at the start, but I think having that success, that team take that and run with it, and it's nearly self-fulfilling, not to do myself out of a job, but it's nearly self-fulfilling, and then they want to challenge it themselves.
Yeah, we and what exactly has got them to have that buy-in? I'm not particularly sure, but what we've always been a company that don't drive by pressure. So we set goals for most of the people in our business, but we don't. If they're not succeeding, we take ownership of that. So we've accepted that if we put somebody into a position if our recruitment's right, we've got the right person. So maybe it's our systems that are preventing them from being successful. So what we don't want, what I don't want anyone taking work home and affecting their home life. So we've always driven this no pressure type policy, where if somebody is having a problem and things are not working for them, that we address that and we help them through it, as opposed to them taking it home. So most of our managers, I'd hate to think any of them feel like they're under pressure.
Tell me, what's your habits you do? I mean, we've mentioned some of the things in place for the whole team, but in the managing director role, or even what you've done, and maybe it's evolved over time. What are some of your key habits in managing this Cultulec group?
I was taught by the previous company I worked for, the managing director of that business, Nigel Peck. He said to me, if you always remember the 3 Fs and in management, and that is fair, firm and friendly. And I'd like to think that that's what people would suggest is my management style. I try to smile as much as I can when I'm in the building, and I try to get to know the employees and what they enjoy doing and their families, and but I think they'll also say that when I have to be, I have to be firm. Yeah. So the 3 Fs would be my management philosophy for anybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure you actually articulate what F means. But yeah. So with that in mind, you've had an extensive career now. And you might be able to pin it to one, but give me an example of one of your biggest mistakes that ultimately biggest lesson. Without, I haven't had a lot of time to think about this, but it would be probably putting too much trust into some people, and trust is something that's built over time. And there have been times where I've put trust in people too quickly. Yeah, they've probably not earned the trust. I've given it to them, and that's come back to create some issues along the way in the business. Yeah. And that's a hard one too, because then it's hard not to be tainted going forward, isn't it?
Yeah. But like I say, I now allow people to earn the trust, and that's been very successful for me. Yeah.
Very good. What probably one of the final points for me, best advice ever received?
What's worked incredibly well for me in business is to be prepared to follow what other people think is the right way. It's not always what I think is the right way. It's people willing to accept that other people, people's ideas and.
So you don't know it all the time.
I absolutely don't know it all the time. No. But I've got to say I was guilty of that for the first 10 years of business. But I've worked out pretty quickly I don't know everything.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mate, it's a great story, this one, and it's one that's, I've had a lot to do with and it's close to my heart, so we could keep talking about this forever, but I might just try and capture a few of those points. I think some little pearls in there, and whether you knew it or not, right back to your days of getting told no by your dad, always seek counsel and have good counsel around you, know how you can always add value if you're going to take up an opportunity, like, when you got into Cultulec and maybe not knowing where the future was. But I think important, what you said got you through was the fact, cash is king. And as much as, we're in a digital world, it's still the essence of cash is absolute. And having that strong network underpinned by very strong relationships that are prepared to back you. I love where you said having that conversation up front with suppliers or stakeholders for that. I'd also put banks in that category. Or regulators like the ATO, and knowing when you might need to lean them a bit. Interesting point, I don't know if you realise you said it, but making sure you understand when your customers wanted to see you. You'd have a lot of people that would turn up to see a customer in general day-to-day that's it's inconvenient. They wonder why they don't get a response. So that's a really good point. Being solutions-based, cracker for selling. Grab good ideas for others. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. You don't have to originate everything. It's how can you take best of breed, learn from the masters, if you like, and actually apply it. I like what you said about, having a plan, but getting other people to challenge it. Like you said, you did the restructure, probably a lot you didn't expect. So going forward, if you're making some significant change, get in your head, but have people actually challenge it because you won't know what all the reactions will be. The other one you said was be very selective with opportunities. I think a lot of people these days, always looking for the quick win, or maybe the one that we need to take up. But some of the best opportunities are the ones you say no to. So I like that one. And then, as you said, probably a couple of points in there. Your team and the right people in your team are key, and absolutely have an earned trust around them, and accepting that it's not your view's not always right, and then they could add a lot of value, which I think is a sign of experience and maturity too as we go along the journey. Collaboration is paramount to culture. You don't use pressure necessarily to get the best out of people. I mean, I think there's a fine line, and the right pressure, but not fear, I guess, is the point there.
Yeah.
And I'll finish with your, as you said, your management style, which I really like, the 3 Fs, and just to clarify, is fair, firm and friendly. Mate, great story.
Thank you.
What's the next steps for Cultulec?
Well, we're continuing down the acquisition path. There's some space in that vertical I spoke about before that we could still fill, and that there's some synergy in some extending our service capabilities and broadening our manufacturing centre down in Wollongong. So that's probably where we're heading. We're heading more not around product space. It's more around manufacturing, testing, calibration, servicing.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And it's cultulec.com.au.
That's correct.
Check it out. Grant Turner, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Andrew. Cheers.
Until next time, cheers.